Mundekulla live. Tonight I have the honor to have Jerker with my side. Jerker, a former monk in the Plum Village tradition, inspired by the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh. I'd like to hear more about that. And the theme today is transforming sickness, death and fear, partly due to the fact that Corona is around us. Also due to the fact that you've had cancer that you had to deal with the last couple of years.
Exactly.
But I also can relate to partly also what I've been through when it comes to near people in my life that has passed away, but also in your way, but also due to the teachings that you've been very involved with the last 20 years with how to relate to challenges in life in a way. Maybe we should start there, talk a little bit about your life as a monk for the 18 years that you have. How did that come about?
So, hello everyone. So I was starting to meditate when I went to university, and slowly an interest for spirituality grew, and I started seeing that life could be so much more. And I was working as a family lawyer in Stockholm for a couple of years after graduating and continued practicing, but I felt like there was a kind of a potential for well-being, a potential for meaning in my life that I couldn't tap into. And I shift some relationship, I start some new hobbies, I shift work, but it was still like in me, it's like, no, there's more to life, but I don't know how to touch it. I don't know how to continue in the current conditions. I took a year of sabbatical. I quit my job.
This was in the end of 90s or
no, 2001.
2001, yeah.
And
so in your
travels brought me to India and encountered both Buddhist teaching and meditation retreats, and also practicing with other young people that have been a huge inspiration for me, and not feeling like lonely and separated in my own spiritual practice, but having others my age also wanting to practice, also feeling like the life society is telling us is how we should live, we don't feel it. We don't want to live like that. There's more to life. And that journey also got me in contact with Thai's teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh and Plum Village. And so I knew at that point that I want to have my spiritual practice as my life and livelihood. I didn't know how. I wasn't ready to start something new. So I went to Plum Village, and at first I asked to be there for 5 weeks, and I extended 3 months, 6 months. After 7 or so months, I thought, actually what I want to do in my life, that's what we're doing here.
Wonderful.
Opportunity to practice, to nourish myself and to transform and heal. And also doing it together as a community with others, and also a lot of other young people. But at the same time, that is a life in nature and a simple life, and a life of service, because thousands of people come to the Plum Village centers every year to participate in mindfulness retreats. So I could see that it wasn't removing myself from society and life, but actually a resource and refuge for many people doing amazing work in society. So that also helped me to see this connection, helped me actually to give myself the gift of I can stay here to take good care of myself and to heal, and that it will be of benefit for others right away and in the future.
That's pretty interesting, because I can think there are many of us who can relate to, the travels that many of us have done in the age of 25 to 30, and before you kind of like really start your working life or whatever, you go on a spiritual journey. I did myself, went to India and went over there. But the difference is from your story, from many of our stories, is that you actually dedicated your life for a long time, and you actually dedicated your life to this specific practice, and stayed there now for almost 20 years.
18.
And 18 years. But what actually brought you to that kind of what made you decide to actually stay? Because you could have been just a year off from work, from your lawyer career.
For me, it was just a sense that what I received and what I was participating in living in Plum Village at a practice center, it was so much richer. So the things that I had to let go of, personal freedom in terms of relationships and food and drink and earning my own money, traveling when I want, and so on.
And this is even after you've studied university for quite a few years and also got a good high-paid job. So it was kind of like letting go of quite big things in a way.
No, but what I could see the dissatisfaction in those things and that pursuit of more success, more material resources. I could see it around me that the people that were successful in society in that kind of a way of living, they didn't have time and the capacity to enjoy the things they had. They just kept going from the next to the next. So for me, that was like clear with the things I already had. It's like, no, actually this is not bringing me satisfaction. So actually having had the lived experience then of living 7 months and having traveled, so from the time I left Sweden until ordaining, that's more than a year almost, year and a half, it was like on retreat and like
it's just like
a very different life, simple, and having things I owned in my backpack, traveling and so on. So in that sense, it's actually what I'm touching here, and then also it made it easier that there's a place, there's other people, and it's like an all in one deal in Plum Village. It's like so many fortunate and
can imagine,
and blessed conditions. So I feel very grateful.
I'm very inspired myself by the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, also Plum Village, and we've just had a retreat here at Mundekulla also, or we had it online due to Corona, but been here for a couple of times, which I'm very grateful for.
It's been great to be here too, and just lead these retreats in Swedish this year. I've led 4 retreats in Swedish in 7 months, and not one every 2 years. It feels like, okay, it's kind of a new chapter, and it feels like a natural new beginning, also with starting to heal and having more energy again in my physical body.
That is interesting also when you come back, the way you speak about coming back to Sweden, and what that brings out in me is also like importance of actually digging where we stand, connecting with our own roots in a way, which can be done through the teachings of Buddhism, of course, but I mean to actually and I think that's what you bring home and make us aware of the importance that we have here in Sweden, and our love for nature, and the importance to actually practice where we are.
But also it's been interesting to be abroad and be a minority. I've been the only Swedish monk around in the community. Obviously we have many different nationalities and we have many similarities and we have a shared direction. It's wonderful. But also it has helped me to see some Swedish cultural habits and way of thinking, seeing the world and so on, that actually it's been a blessing to be away. And I see that I've chosen to be far away in California for 14 years. And it is a sense of like feeling just deep roots and very connected with culture and the land and climate here. And I see that there is some kind of a reservedness, orderliness, hardworkingness, timeliness that actually makes for a functionable society, but actually prevents us from being a little bit more alive and bubbly at times. So for me, that is also, having lived in California where things can be fantastic and awesome, that is like something that nourished me. And I also feel like I'm bringing home. I'm different and I'm the same. As
you come back after 18 years back later, you come back in a way as a new person, but I guess you can still connect to your I was thinking one thing you talked about on this retreat that I think inspired us all, or actually made us all think, was when you talked about maybe us Swedes balancing between the guilt and shame. When you talked about the guilt and shame concept, maybe you can just kind of say some words about that.
Yeah, I've seen in different cultures and depending on religious backgrounds and so on, this relationship of how we see ourselves. Maybe how harsh we judge ourselves, how hard we push ourselves is a little bit different. And it also comes down to geography, the climate that we grew up in, our ancestors grew up with. The first year I spent in California, for example, it felt like my ancestors in me felt, it's summertime all year long here. It's like, I can relax. I don't have to collect firewood. I don't have to do all these things to store food to prepare for winter. Even my family haven't been farmers for several generations. I can still feel it in me. It's like, some kind of a sense of relaxation happening.
I love that connection actually, because I can see that it's not so far away. It's 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Most people in Sweden were farmers.
Yeah.
So it's just down the line. It's and for 10,000s of years in a way. And now we're just changed in one generation. Yeah. So
that's part of it. But also I can see that I feel fortunate about many aspects of Christian society, even if we're a very secularized society, and maybe like our common shared spiritual path is nature. And I've always inspired by Jesus's message and felt it very beautiful. But at times I also touched the sense of sin. I've done something wrong deep inside. There's kind of shame. There's something wrong with me. So I think, like with Buddhist meditation and mindfulness, it's help us to see things as they are. And also our teacher talks about calling things by their true names.
Wonderful.
And many times it's like blends together. And we may be angry, but we don't feel fear behind it, or we feel guilt, but actually maybe shame. So the shame, you could describe it as I feel bad about myself. There's something wrong with me. And guilt as something, I've done something that is not good, that is not helpful. We talk rather in terms of good and bad, as helpful or not helpful, wholesome or not wholesome. And so from that, shifting them out a little bit. So for me, coming back to shame, then it's okay, it doesn't really have a place. I see it as a misunderstanding and ignorance, consciously or unconsciously used to kind of keep the thumb on people, to control people, to keep people down. The Buddha has taught that we all have Buddha nature. We all have the capacity to be whole, to be full of understanding and love. So that helps me to see when shame comes up, I feel like there's something wrong with me, like inherently. If it's small, like splinter of that at times. Well, actually, that's not, that's wrong you. But then with the guilt aspect, because also in Buddhist psychology, we see like aspects of feeling bad about our actions or having some remorse can be very wholesome. If we have the remorse of seeing, like I said or done something that hurt you, Peter, and I don't want to hurt you. And then I have some remorse and feeling like I want to try to act and first apologize and then act and speak in a way that will, bring well-being to you. That is kind of a wholesome aspect. I don't pretend that nothing happened, or I'm in contact with my deep volition, how I want to act in the world, and take responsibility for actions when they're not in line with my deep aspiration. So for me, you could see guilt as an aspect of that to actually help me to mirror myself, so I don't just do whatever I want to do and I just keep going.
But while shame is a little bit deeper in that sense.
And debilitating, because that's not if we come back and look in, also builds on kind of an idea of a separate self, that there's an I in the first place, that's separated from you, that's separated from the cosmos, that it can be flawed, and I have to repent or do something, endure or work hard, and maybe in the future things can brighten up. So from the training I've got and the insight I got, and it's like, it's a wrong view, it's a misunderstanding of how life works.
More like the original sin. Kind of born with sin, born out of shame, kind of thing. While guilt is something more on the surface that we can change our behavior and then we get rid of the guilt. But while shame is more like part of our core. Doesn't have to be, but that's the way maybe we've been brought up to think. Is that more like a Western civilization, or you see it even more so in the Nordic countries? No,
I think Judeo-Christian contexts have that, and I think it does take different shapes in different countries, but I think it's good for all of us to reflect. It's like seeing more clearly what is helping us to grow and making choices that is in line with our heart, and also not belittling ourselves internally, because there's a lot of self-criticism going around. There's many teachers that come to the West and see like, wow, there's self-hatred and there's so much self-destructivity that we don't recognize these in our cultures. So I think that is also like to look at, and with the guilt too can also become a very heavy thing, that we carry our burdens. Like, no, we let go of our burdens and we start over. So like, if there's something I've done that I regret, I feel like it's causing suffering for myself and others, I don't want to act like that. And I try to find ways to transform that behavior and act in a different way. So that's also with awareness, sickness, death, and fear. How can we transform them? It's not to fight them, it's not to repress them, but it's to help see what we can learn from them.
So one could say like, I did wrong. That's more like the guilt part of us. I am wrong. That's kind of the shame. And that's something that maybe lies deeper that we need to look at. Like you say, with the Buddha's teaching is that nothing is wrong. It's like,
exactly, that's the important aspect.
It's just the wrong perception.
The wrongness is unskillful. I didn't know any better. And when looking into that, it's also understanding the causes and condition that brought that action to be. Maybe I overextended myself. Maybe I've taken on too much. Maybe I've gone from one conversation to the next the whole day. So when I come to your conversation, this hasn't happened, how we haven't had any problems, but I just take this as an example. I say something, I'm irritated, or I cut you off short or something. You can see, actually it's not maybe ill intent. I see actually how I spent the day. It just led up to that. So then it can be actually love and care for myself. And not saying I did something wrong, now I have to like repent and do better. But it's like, okay, this happened because of these and these conditions. I don't want it to play out like that. So how can I change and be an agent in creating different conditions rather than right and wrong?
Could you say that that's kind of one of the base teachings, becoming a monk, to actually work with these issues in yourself in a way to become more transparent and open, and in that way also be more serving? Because if you come from a very shameful or guilt perspective and you want to serve, then it's more like, sorry, I'm alive. Sorry, it's not like you like condemn yourself in a way. So I guess that's also about the purity of also transforming sickness, death, and fear to actually come from a loving space in yourself, from a willingness to give.
Yeah, for sure. There's that kind of embrace, acceptance is a big part of healing and transformation at any level. And so in becoming a monk, when we shave our heads, we make the great vow today to transform all my afflictions and to bring happiness to all beings. So my own afflictions and the happiness of all beings have something to do with each other. So my happiness and your happiness have something to do with each other. So it's not I'm going to serve the world, I'm going to go out on a mission and help people. But I'm transforming my own afflictions and I want to help people, make people happy. In a way, help people transform themselves, like not give fish away, but teach the fish. Well, we're vegetarian, so maybe it's not a good example, but coming from a Christian like imagery, that's what I've been blessed to be part of for so many years, and continue my own practice and transformation and growth, but also to be there with others in the path of practice, to have this internal transformation at different levels.
To bring that up, to have that along with you. I was thinking about the theme, if we talk about the sickness to start with, because you became very sick just a couple of years ago in cancer. And I can imagine that was like a bit of deep, heavy lesson in a way, or teaching, or however you relate to it. But I guess that really made you stop and think and had to calm down and really
it shifted
take care of yourself in a way.
There's so many different aspects to share on that. As I got diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma cancer in September of 2018, and so in the process is both like, how do I go through the the acceptance phase within myself, And when I first heard, I didn't really have the time to take it in that deeply because it was the arrival day on a retreat that I was helping lead with other brothers and sisters.
And you didn't feel tired, or?
I could see that there was more ache in my body. I had some sweats at nighttime, and I started feeling, the month beforehand, starting to feel less energy and longer to recuperate than I've been used to.
So that's why I also went to the doctor to check out, I guess.
I felt a little lump in my armpit, and they took a biopsy just before I went on a trip, and then 2 weeks later they came with the results. And so they say like, you got cancer. And
what did you think then? Shocking.
No, I think it wasn't shocking. I just like, okay. I kind of let it sit there. I didn't react to it much. And because the retreat was happening and I wanted to focus whatever energy I had now, I knew I cannot do anything about this right now. I don't want to just like stop and go home 1 week early to get treatment right away or to learn something more. It's like, okay, now I want to do this retreat. We've been planning it for a year, and it's like a lot of energy, and people, 150 people are coming, so I want to offer my best during this time. But so in a way, what I did at first to open my kind of a sense of bigger picture consciousness is like, can I see myself in the leaves? Can I see myself in the wind? Because in the Minnesota, where we had the retreat at a lake, and big leafed trees and breeze, it felt a little bit like Sweden. So I felt a little bit like home. So I could, with this kind of a mantra I had during the week, can I see myself in the leaves and the wind? It was helping me like, okay, don't go into some fear, don't go into anxious thinking and feeling about what's going to happen, because you don't know yet. You cannot do anything about that right now. And it gave me the space to do, actually, I care about these people, I care about this situation, so like, let's do this retreat. And right after I got treatment and both acupuncture and herbal medicine, I went to the doctor, had more scans and so on, and so it's many different areas where I kind of get a chance to check back and see, how do I relate to this, and also ask myself, we talk about body and mind are one or in unison or like together, and so I see that if I get sick, can I keep that in me? Can I like ask myself, what is emotional, what is spiritual aspects of this, and what is physical? If I want to heal, like I have to see the whole picture. And so I did that from the get-go, and I've learned a lot. And also taken alternative things, even if I also received treatment from the hospital. And I see there's been a long process. Actually, I have in mind to do like a 3-part webinar about this, how I related to sickness myself. Because I see also now with Corona is so much, is kind of a higher level of alertness and fear in society. And for me, I also feel like I hope it wakes us up that the Corona is here and we give it so much attention. Because how about the suicides that's happening due to mental ill-being, emotional ill-being in our society? People are poor and starving. People are drowning in the Mediterranean and other places. Heart and lung diseases. Otherwise, because of lifestyle choices and cancer. It's like all these things. So many people are dying all the time, and we just somehow we make it seem like it's part of life. It's just normal. And then this new thing come along and get all our attention every day. It's like it's unproportional. That's what I feel. It's not. We're like the last thing to make us fearful and like edgy, so we don't have to look at what's underneath it, because the way we live our life, what we prioritize, how we take care of each other, I feel like is something out of balance. So that's also what I'm hoping to share. How do we see our lives? How do we see our life as humans on this planet? What's most important? So love and community could then be the antidote or the way forward through the fear of death and sickness. So I think this is the time to do it, because now everything is kind of like changing and lopsiding, but we have to have some kind of inner stability and capacity to look back at the bigger picture to learn from this.
Feels like that somehow the world needs rest. I have a tendency to, although Mundekulla has of course suffered a lot economy-wise due to Corona, still do. I still try to think, okay, well, there's a lot of us that have suffered a lot, but what can I learn from it? How can I go deeper? How can I do more like my daily meditation and try to take care of myself and not to kind of run into fear or anger or trying to find someone out there that I can project my own fear or anger at. Yeah. So I guess
that's great. Yeah, I think there's many people that are doing that, and I hear many people are like relieved that in addition to work and family life, they don't have to do all these extra curriculum things because many things are not available. So that has helped slow things down. But also when we slow things down, we don't get to see each other, and some people don't want to hug each other. It's like you see also there's something very human in us that doesn't get nourishment. So if you don't have a practice already, it might lead you to despair and depression. So that is, it becomes difficult to transform through the challenges and the conditions we have now if you don't have a path already, if you don't have enough clarity to find yourself to a path.
No, I can see that there's a big risk of people actually losing trust and losing energy and the fear is growing in a way. Already is, but
I think there's uncertainty too. You don't know, and that's kind of a teaching of the Buddha that things change. Things are impermanent, and we've thought that our society it can keep, and our civilization can keep exponentially increasing like that is also based on the wrong view. It doesn't work like that if you look at other systems.
No, everything is.
So it's come out of balance in so many ways. So in that sense, it's kind of, I feel like life in a way is giving us like a wake up call, like a sense stick. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Look at yourselves. How do you treat each other too? Where do we separate, and who are we and who are they? I think that is such a
we and them.
Yeah, that's such an important part to look at. Like, can we love ourselves and love more and more people and care, and like maybe it's okay if I have like this much, so you can have enough to survive too, rather than I should have this much and then you barely make it. I think that we cannot be happy as humans with that kind of inequality. Deeper down, it doesn't bring us happiness. So that's where the whole societal economical system is flawed in a way. It cannot help us lead us out of this situation, I feel.
The rich is becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer all the time. So there has to be some kind of a change in this value.
And are then better prepared for big challenges. So for example, I've been teaching and how to bring mindfulness to all the emotions and the situation of climate crisis. And so we see that in that, and like any difficulty that happens, the people that are the most vulnerable already suffer the most. They don't have like money to invest in new technology. They don't have like another house or bank accounts that they kind of don't have to work for 6 months. So that's like it's also kind of a checkup call to see like, wow, we build a kind of unsustainable society, and there's so much stress in people of fear of making it. So it's difficult to settle in to have a sense of well-being in that. You always like have to worry about tomorrow because you're not sure where you'll find your food. So rather than saying, oh, you can practice be happy in the present moment, I say like, no, you need to get enough food, enough clothing, enough shelter, and enough medication. That's like the basic necessities even for a monastic. That is like choosing a simple life.
Makes you feel safe. Yeah. I was thinking, going back to times when you were dealing with your cancer in that sense. It was like 1 year of pretty. I've also heard the story behind the scenes, and I know that it's been super, super big change in a way. Yeah. And I can relate to my own. I have like 3 family members that have passed away over the years, and that is like challenging to face. But you have been challenging something that is in you, something that is really you have to deal with every day. So that's a different kind of challenge in a way. And you not know if you're gonna survive or if you're gonna you can win over the cancer. But how did you deal with that? Because from my understanding, it was pretty tough. It wasn't. I mean, the outcome wasn't. Some cancers are more easy, but this was pretty like a tough.
Yeah, it was 11 tumors spread in different parts of my body and start affecting nerves and so on. And it was also this, like, is in intense practice in permanence.
How did you practice that?
For a while I could do certain things. I could still come to sitting meditation, but some brother drove me in the electric cart because I couldn't walk that far. But then I started having more pain in my back, so I sat in a chair. Thai has always encouraged us, even if you're sick, you come and practice. The collective energy of the Sangha can help heal you. So that was like what I've been practicing. So
you weren't sitting alone in your room. You tried to
as
be
long as I
part
could. I tried to take refuge in that and follow like what my teacher taught me and see, does it work? You know? But then adjusting. And then at a certain point, it's like, I had this one morning, I sat next to a brother and I say afterwards, like, sorry that I move around so much. It's like, I have so much pain. And I've never liked pain medication or medication in general. So like for a long time, I didn't take any pain medication. So it was like enduring pain for quite a while. And he said, well, you know, this is also the love and the care that I've had around me in this time. It's like, he said, you know, it helps me stay awake. So very sweetly, it's like, okay, so I feel okay to be who I was at that moment. So that is, I think, the two great gifts I could see, like in getting sick, when I got sick and starting feeling worse, is both, okay, I've trained my mind for these years. I don't easily get swept away in fear and anxiety and what's going to happen and like, so it doesn't that easily overtake me. Or feel like I've done something wrong, what's happening, I blame myself. It doesn't come so easily or stay very long if it does arise occasionally. And the second thing of being in a community where actually like other people could take up my responsibilities, I just let go of everything like within a day. And brothers are helping bring food to my room when I needed, take me in the electric cart when I needed, drive me to the hospital and so on. So in that sense, I see like there's been many different blessings of living in community and having a life of practice. I could see like when I was sitting in waiting rooms and I see people maybe lonely and maybe there's fear of economical safety and sickness and so on. It's like, wow, I just feel like so much compassion for them and feeling I'm so fortunate. Even in the midst of having cancer, I could touch gratitude. My conditions for embracing and taking care of this situation is so much better than most people. It doesn't mean like I would choose to have cancer, but you know, I could see I could learn a lot from it. And it got worse. So for a while I was really weak and slowly kind of recuperating. And it's still being monitored and so on, but it seems like there's no active cancer in me right now.
No, that's great. And that's like, you got it pretty much 2 years ago now. That's when you got the message. So 1 year of, wasn't that pretty quick anyway? 1 year? Was that due to the help of your practice and the community and those healing parts in your life that helped you kind of cope and also get by in it?
Well, I think the immunotherapies that they have for melanoma cancer now are so much more efficient than what was available previously.
Okay.
You know, and but so I did have immunotherapy. I did have some radiation treatment to the tumors that were affecting my nerves. At the same time too, I was getting nutritional supplements. I was at times I was getting acupuncture and herbal Chinese medicine. And I had occasion and, you know, maybe some capacity to rest. And also a practice of transforming or healing, just briefly, you know, that I practiced was one is to have conversation with Mr. Melanoma. I call him Mr. Melanoma.
Okay. And
so I asked him, what can I learn from this? I don't want to make you my enemy. No, like I don't want to have conflicts inside of me. You like the cancer cells trying to like eat up and take over. And I conversed with him like, if you allow yourself to be transformed, because I learned that some enzyme or energy of the cancer cells can be reabsorbed by the body.
Okay.
And so like, if you allow yourself to be transformed, you can become a part of this human being. And together as a human being, we can do much more cool and amazing things that you as the most successful cancer cell can do. So in that sense too, so I don't want to make you my enemy, I want to make you my friend. How can I learn from this? And also let's transform together. So I think that was like the inner dialogue I kept.
That's a beautiful picture, because that's what the world needs in a way. Instead of creating enemies and different political parties or whatever, how can we like come through together? It makes me also think about this beautiful, I'm sure you heard the story about this beautiful Lama, I think Fire Under the Snow, I think the book is called, how when he was in prison and he was asked, what did you fear the most while in prison? It was that I was going to lose my humility for the one who treated me really bad, the people, the prison guards. And that's such a beautiful way of seeing it.
Yeah, that's deeply admiring to have someone that transformed themselves to that extent. It's humbling.
To try not to give in to fear in a way. But that's also a nice picture that I think many people who suffer from disease, or that we all can relate to in our challenges. What can I learn from this? What can I learn from? Why is this in my life? How can I transform it together with either the challenge or the person that kind of like that gives me a hard time?
Yeah, so the Buddha's path of the middle way, it brought me a lot of like reassurance and support, and not going to extremes of like repressing it and try to pretend I'm normal and like I just go about things as much as I can and just like keep going. Or to like just let it take over. Okay, I have cancer, I am cancer. I think that the risk is that we identify with our sickness, and then there's no how can you transform. It's like I'm cancer, like,
and then you're gone in a way. Because also the power of the mind, I guess, if you just become the sickness and you speak to everyone like I have cancer, I am cancer, that's like becomes like your mantra.
And actually I felt like the hospital and the appointment system, they easily pull you into that. Because I could see, okay, now I have my next appointment or my next scan and I need to do these things. So it could be your life. It could become your lifestyle. I'm a cancer patient can become your lifestyle. And not saying that you could just cure it with this kind of mental attitude, but it has something to do with it. And I've done other practices too internally that I'm sure has helped in the transformation of it, and the support of the community. And
that's also important, I think, with what you say, with how you went to the practice anyway. You brought the cancer with you to the practice. Okay, let's try this out.
And there was a period of a couple of months where I told the brothers and sisters, I feel like a 86-year-old man just sitting in his lounge chair in the room and just looking out the window all day, I couldn't do much. I could barely kind of stay focused with my breathing. So I was like, okay, let me not, what I kept focused on is like, okay, I don't want to create stories, dramas and worry. I just gonna sit here and it's like, oh, maybe
that's a pretty challenging thing though. Because you can't.
The physical body didn't have much choice. That was.
But then the mind could easily try to get you out of the.
It didn't have and in that time of being the most weak, I could also see there was some internal suffering, generational, but also in my life that actually there's residue of this still. And so being at the sickest, I could also see I got the gift of seeing that there's another layer of the onion here. Of the onion. It's like we can see there's layers in which we can transform to be free. And I could see
every layer brings out some tears.
It could help me to get in contact with that. But I see, okay, I cannot do it now because I was so weak. So I said, okay, and I will take care of you later. And that's part of coming to Sweden and being in a different environment and having much more time to rest and to nourish myself in different ways to continue that healing and transforming journey.
Related to the theme tonight about also death, did you fear death? Did you get in contact with that feeling?
There was a period of time where I was at the weakest, and the doctor, for example, said I responded really well to the treatment, so they had to pause the treatment for a while, for almost 2 months. Okay. Because the system was what they call overheated. It was internal inflammation, and which are operating day and night, full steam ahead. The immune system was just like super boost. Okay. But it also exhausted my body as an entity, and inflammation that made my organs and muscles very weak. So for a while, it was difficult to breathe. I couldn't have a conversation, like even 5 minutes, without getting. I couldn't lay down straight because at first I couldn't get up. I didn't have enough muscle tissue anymore to actually get up, and second, I couldn't get enough air in, so I had to like lay on a slope. Wow. And so at that time I was like, I don't know. I want to live. I want to go in a direction of healing, but I did ask myself, so like, if this not going, in a transformative direction, would I be okay with it? Would I be able to let go? And so I sat with that for a while. No, the answer came quite naturally too. It's like, yeah, I can. Because I look back several mornings, also earlier on in the process, I just sat having tea in my room and just like having tears of joy and gratitude come with the things I've been able to be involved in, the things I've been able to touch. I feel like this life, especially the last 18 years, has been richer than I could ever imagine.
Wonderful, yeah.
And so I feel so fortunate, and because of that, I feel like I could let go.
That's also my next question. Is like, was the cancer related to you deciding to not staying as a monk?
No. I think it shifted my perspective and gave me a different kind of dynamics to look at. And it feels a little bit like it kind of propelled the last part of the cycle. I feel like I've been so blessed and grateful to be a monk all these years, and all the brothers and sisters I've come close to, and they're a part of my life.
Every time I hear you speak about it, you're very positive about those 18 years as a monk.
Yeah, I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. And so in a way, I feel like the last part of deciding to disrobe, it had something to do with this kind of shame and guilt aspect we started off at.
Okay, interesting.
Because I felt like I was able to let go to die if that would have been the situation, because I lived wholeheartedly. I put my time, energy, and like my whole self into my life so far to the best of my ability. And I see also like actually reflecting on what I want to do with my life. It feels a little bit like I'm being reborn out of cancer, as my energy is starting to, build up. And so it's a little bit, so what do I want to do with this life? Don't take it for granted that I want to continue being a monk just because I'm used to being a monk and I like it. And so it also seen that there's other things I want to learn in this life, I want to be able to do in this life. And one is to be able to live and teach in Swedish, a bigger part of the time. And there's other elements. And so the final, I think the hurdle or the final kind of challenge of allowing my heart to speak that, yes, this is what I want to do. It was a sense of feeling like, will I let Tai, my teacher, and my brothers and sisters down? I feel like a little bit, can I leave without feeling guilty? I don't want to leave feeling guilty or shameful, or like feel like I have to look the other way or pretend that I'm not there for a year, or like step,
So that was like an inner discussion you had at first.
Yeah.
And how did it come out, or how did people react when you shared that you decided to disrobe?
Yeah, it was a process. I shared some with some older brothers over a period.
Before you decided, or?
Yeah, this past spring. And no, I think in many ways the communication I receive back is a lot of gratitude, love, and well wishes. And also knowing that there is every time someone leaves, it also leaves a space behind, you know. And so it's both, I think, and I feel like I know there's certain things I won't be able to experience in the same way because I've left. And I wouldn't say that there's sorrow because of it or I miss it, but I see it's so valuable, it's so precious. I hope many people have the experience to touch that. And I have the confidence that I can bring about situations like that and relationships like that in my life in a different form. So in that sense, I feel like I just wrote actually a sister this morning that sent me some information and Thai's upgraded biography that she's been working on and so on. I say, like, in a way, with leading these retreats and being in Sweden, I feel like the Sangha River is growing a delta in Sweden.
Yeah, we're very grateful, I must say that. And there's more of us that are happy that you're teaching here and giving us much more closer connection to Plum Village and the tradition, instead of having to go down to France here and there. So that's great. So I definitely can see that you and many people have lived a life as a monk or a nun really can contribute something really big to the society by being in the society also. There's some feeling, I think, in me and many of us that like the monk life is kind of like exotic. It's like fascinating. It's like exciting. And it's like, why are you leaving? You know, that's the best life you can live. But I can totally see that there's more to it, and there's many aspects. And
I think there's more people asking themselves, why did you decide to do that? And during these years too, I've discovered the aspiration and the insight I had why I wanted to ordain in the first place. I've understood it more and more deeply. And according to my understanding of that aspiration, I've also, like, I'm not running away from something. It's not uncompleted, but it's actually come to like a closure of something inside of me. So I feel like I could start another cycle, or I could, you know, voluntarily and freely continue stepping into freedom. We say when we become a monk or nun, it's a practice of stepping into freedom. So I ask myself, okay, I don't want to step out of freedom. No. I want to step deeper into freedom and integrate it in other aspects of my personality, of my heritage, and the curiosity and creativity of sharing it in different contexts with different kinds of people. It also inspires me.
Interesting also is that your father passed away while you were in suffering the worst in a way. 2000.
Yeah, our curves of illness were peaking together.
Yeah. Did you also suffer from cancer?
Yeah, lung and skeleton cancer. And so we talked after I got diagnosed and so on. And
but you didn't meet after that?
No, we didn't. We hadn't met for a couple of years before that either, when I visited him in Sweden. And so we talked on the phone, and so he felt for me, and he thought, that will be difficult. And then next time we talked, he said that he had some numbness in his left arm and some pains and like.
So you got it first in a way,
some dizziness. So he started recognizing his symptoms a little bit later, and then his tests took a long time to come in. So by the time he got results back, I was like at my worst. I was like the weakest. Wow. And so I didn't hear until later that he went through chemotherapy. It just made him so sick, really sick. And so at that point, they didn't see much other treatment options, or he didn't kind of want to follow up on that. So it was more of a palliative care from then on. So he passed away in February, and both when he got sick and even for his funeral, I said, like, I can't travel across the country, across the world to be there. I want to be there, but and more, I think, before, like ceremonies and so on, he's never been big at, so I didn't feel like an expectation from him that he would be disappointed. But it would have been wonderful to sit with him and hold his hand and talk to him when he was in his sick bed. So I did that a couple of times, like, you know, sharing and writing cards about wonderful things we experienced, and also the beautiful things he's done in his life and so on. And so we kind of nourishing what we call the positive seeds there. So like this feeling too, so there's not fear, worry or pain that takes over, but also like even in the midst of sickness and death, we can see like what are the wonders that we experienced in this life. I think also what brings me back to the corona epidemic and so on, it make us face that actually we pretend like we're not going to die. We pretend like we're not going to get sick. But people around us are getting sick and die all the time. But we like somehow want to keep it out of our consciousness because it's too scary. The fear comes in. It's natural to have fear about that. So part of Buddhist monastic life is to recognize, okay, I'm going to get sick. I'm going to die one day. That's the only thing we can be sure of, right? If we're born, we're going to die. But life is manifesting beyond birth and death like that. So
the suffering aspect.
Yeah, we create a lot of suffering because of our fear and because of our resistance to see things as they are.
But also, isn't the Buddhist teachings also that there is suffering, to recognize that there is suffering? It's not like, no, life is just great. It's like there is, and there will be challenging. Yeah. But it's okay.
And there's causes for it, and there's a way out of it. Yeah. And there's a way to practice to transform. So I think that's where you know, we talk about healing and transformation. So if we talk about sickness, death, and fear, we also have to show a way out. The Buddha wanted to show a way out of suffering and ill-being. Yeah.
I'm thinking, you grew up in Stockholm. I grew up just outside Malmö. I moved up here because my parents came from this region, or it's actually the next village here around, and I started digging very much in my roots and kind of like thinking, where did I come from and how did I start it? And interestingly enough, your father just grew up 30 kilometers from here or something, and also lived in this region. And I remember you went there this summer also because you didn't go to his funeral, but how did it affect you to actually come to his? You've been here before, but I mean after he's passed away now, and to relate to his, also your grounds in a way, and your heritage.
Yeah, he left this part of Sweden when he was young. In the last 10 years he lived closer by, and so when I came here this summer, then finally we've been planning since this spring for me to come here, and it happened this summer. And I was still like practicing with him within me, and learned many things in that process for the year and a half almost. And being here, I feel like being here and being on the land, it connected me to that part of my family more too, because his only sister, she's stayed in this little town for her whole life, and I got to meet her and one of my cousins I haven't met much for many years. And so it also helped me ground in that and ask them questions about grandma and grandpa and so on, that that helped me to connect with that side of the family. So a little bit more of a roots in the area. And also I was kind of reflecting on, because I've never been much to going to cemeteries, and my father even less, and so on. So it's like going to the cemetery or the ashes, where the ashes are spread, the memorial grove or something. It didn't naturally appeal to me. I would have gone, but then when we had this ceremony here at Mundekulla, we had the being in the forest and wanting to replant leaf trees. Because some of the best time I spent with my dad was when they owned a house outside of Stockholm. It was partly forested, and he took care of his own firewood and built some of the barns because with the wood that the trees in his forest. And so we did some of that work together too, and being with him outdoors and in nature, I felt like I connected with the best in him. And so those were the sweetest memories and things like I remember, and like it's in the forefront of the beauty of the relationship, or my father as a grown man and me as an adult. And so then to offer a tree in his honor to this new leaf forest, this is where my dad's gonna rest. This is my dad's son kind of a memorial place.
We have a project here we call Adopt a Tree. So people can buy a tree, and then we put a little sign there. So I guess we got to put your father's name on that sign to kind of remember him. That's a Chinese saying, isn't it? If you plant a tree, it was a good reason for your life in a way. If you plant a tree during your lifetime, your life is fulfilled.
Yeah, it can continue, huh? I think that's where, Thai always teach us, it's like looking into death. If you want to know what happened when we die, look at what happens when we're alive.
If you want to know what happens when we die, look what happens when you're alive.
And in a way that we're not either we're being or non-being, so we're alive or we're dead, that's not actually reality, that's not what's going on. But we're changing all the time, right? You see my skin is kind of a marble and like, but I see that my nails, my skin is becoming more resilient. So I see there's change happening. I'm not exactly the same as 6 months ago.
So you mean that's like when you're alive, you go through different changes.
Yeah.
So, and having that awareness, then passing into death is not, doesn't have to be a big change either.
Passing through that.
But passing through that thing too.
It's kind of a continuation too, and like now, so like speaking to you and recording this, like, we continue in many different directions. The retreat we just held for 30 plus people. So my experience, the little I have, what I have to share, it also got shared with these people, and it changed their life to some extent, And so I'm not the same after this retreat, they're not the same. So we're always changing, and so we talk about our actions as our continuation, our way of thinking, speaking, and acting in the world. So again, like with getting a transformation and healing, what do I want to do with my life? So again, in this time, can we ask ourselves, what do I want to do with my life? This precious human life on this planet is beautiful. How are we investing it? How are we spending it? Knowing it's not going to last forever. It will continue in many different ways, but are we here? A part of the theme for this retreat was to experience the wonders of the present moment, right? And some people have a hard time with that. We're not used to, we don't know how to. When we stop and relax, that was part of the theme also, actually we become more aware of our sadness, our worry, and our stress maybe, and so on. And there doesn't seem to be a wonder there. So it takes a bit of a practice. But like for me also, the natural world and being with people, being able to talk about real things and being open, I feel like that is a wonder of life. So that is like, okay, I don't know how many more wonders I'll experience. I want to experience this one. Let's start with this one.
That's wonderful. I'm thinking also when you speak that the more we stop fearing death, the more we can be alive while living. And also when I hear you speak about your father, because my father also passed away last year.
Exactly.
And we built this place together, and my mother passed away 2 years before, and I had a brother that passed away when I was 18 and he was 19. So there's been in a way a lot of deaths in my life, but I also think that when I look back on it, I can see that it has transformed my life. I think this place has come to be very much due to the fact that my brother was murdered actually when I was younger, and that was like such a horrible act and hard to deal with, but it somehow got a constructive I chose to kind of like give it some meaning. I want to like create something positive out of this. So I think I usually talk about death is like either we can become angry, sad, and project our fear and our sadness on others, bitter, or we can actually work with the challenge and do something constructive out of it. And also when my mother died, because we worked a lot with people who passed away and people who suffered a lot together due to the fact that my brother passed away, so we worked with similar cases. And she was not afraid of dying, so it was wonderful to come down there. For the last month she had, I was sleeping in the same bed and we were talking very much and had a beautiful connection. And in the end she just said like, oh, I'm ready to let go now. And I can feel that it was like a nice, of course there's been sadness and sorrow that she's not here, but I'm also very grateful for her living. her life and which is given to me. And the same thing, my father, he had like a 4 year of a cancer process. And the last year was he was very sick. So I was also staying very, very close to him, and I was like, this is the most important thing I do now. I was like really trying to dedicate myself to just being there, and also in service. And it felt like he was there for me when I was young. When I grew up, I could run to him, and he was my role model in a way. And now and then I could be his kind of role model, his father in a way, taking care of him. So it was like something about giving back. So I felt like I'm just going to be here and give until the very last day. So there's but still, that doesn't take me away from feeling what I can sense when I speak about it now, that there's some sorrow in it. So it doesn't take me away from feeling that. But it brings me also back positive memories. That life is so important in a way. And that's also what I feel now in this process, also with Mundekulla and Corona, that I really feel like I need a rest. The world needs a rest. I need to grow and learn something from this. I need to create a new life in a way, more sustainable, because I've been working very hard running this place, but actually find a new approach where you can be more happy. I'm not sure where you are when it comes to that. Also, when you, I can see yourself teaching now for the coming, for a long time ahead. But that's also something beautiful. But the importance also to take care of about ourselves. I'm not sure if you are more into that now after the cancer. That you really give yourself more rest and.
I think one of the learnings is, maybe I come back to the losing loved ones and parents and so on first. It's natural that we're gonna feel sorrow, and it's gonna hurt, But then also, if we can feel like that and we can embrace it, we don't reject it. But also, and we see that there was beautiful things. They enriched my life somehow. Maybe they left difficulties with us too, but they did offer us something. And so the sorrow can I do see it. We can see talk sometimes that my joy and pain are one. So what can we learn, but also how do they contain each other? So because I've felt sorrow, I can also feel like I want to really be here, because I know it's not going to last forever. So the joy in the life, joy of being alive, of having gratitude for the things that are available to me now, can also be strengthened by the sorrow. Actually, it does hurt when you're separated from the ones you love. It doesn't mean that we close our heart and don't love people wholeheartedly. That is actually what I've noticed too in being in the community. I've had more relationships and siblings and friends, good friends, that I would have imagined. And sometimes people get sick and die, sometimes people move away or so on. And so there's like it, but I see it has strengthened my heart to the sense of being open, to see the wonder in a person, of developing a relationship, to care for someone without the fear of exactly, will you leave in 2 years? No, like that might be part of it. We might not see each other much after that. But like, now you're here. And what I noticed too, when I train myself like that, I can also see, now coming back to Sweden, it's very easy for me to find new friends and have a close heart-to-heart connection, because I've been training myself to do that. Both to invest myself in relationship, in friendships, and to let go, because, we won't be together like this forever. And coming back then to kind of learning from being in challenging situations. If I have enough conditions, we can learn a lot from challenging situations. And I felt in terms of inner sustainability, I felt, someone said that I spent my better years as a monk, from 30 to 48. So I felt a lot of physical strength and well-being and capacity to also contribute. And with being sick, and even until I got sick, I felt like I was healthy. I was taking good care of myself. I was running in the mountains. I was, able to do things in the community, but I also enjoyed sitting under a tree, just drinking tea and taking a stroll on my own and see the sunset without like any concern in the world. But I did see, I have this notion, this view that the energy and the capacity I have that's been building from 30 until, I thought it was going to continue like that. So I saw that I've internalized a little bit of this exponential growth paradigm that's in society and in economics I don't believe in, but it's still, I thought I could keep it going. And I see like, no, you cannot. So maybe also learn from my experience, or don't go that far.
No, but that's something that I really try to tell myself now in this process, that life is not going to last forever. It's important to actually I think also the message that you teach, and also of course Plum Village and Thich Nhat Hanh, about mindfulness is probably one of the most important things that the world needs today. For us to be more mindful and aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it, instead of all the habitual behavior stuff. So I think that's really also what I keep telling myself, that this is what I need more of, because I'm in a way, I'm very much an entrepreneur, building a place like this, sustaining it, creating events, building a company, but that also takes me away, in a way. It has been taking me away from the moment. And my mind is busy thinking about how to fix different things. But I also like to be inspired by, for example, Thich Nhat Hanh, who's also kind of created a wonderful setting. But I think also what I'm trying to learn now is to create those things from a different space in myself, and to let go of things, and to build a sustainable organization the whole way through. So if you are an entrepreneur, it's hard to stop to be it, because it's such a habit from early on, and probably also because my father was an entrepreneur, so I've seen him growing up, so it's so much in my system, talking about the history of us. So it's not something that I just stopped doing, but how can I do it from a different space in myself?
There's that of being aware of what is motivating me. If it's habitual, just because I'm used to it, or because my dad did it, or am I choosing to do it? And also, is it like in other situations and roles in my areas, is it like, am I free when I do it, or is it compulsive? I think that's what, it helps to look for myself, but also like when teaching is like, of course we want to do things, we want to contribute to the world. Even Tai says that if we have insights, we'll have more love and compassion. If we have compassion, we see suffering, we need to find a way to act to relieve and to lessen suffering. So it's natural, but like from the place, how whole are we? How much of our afflictions have we transformed? And so then, how many can we help? How much?
I remember when I was...
it's easy to see like, I'm over here, so I'm doing this, and then I'm contributing to you. It has a very little value, but if I'm seeing that together, Mundekulla is happening. The people that come here, and you and this place, everyone involved, it happens together. It's not like I'm creating something for you. Then it's like this insight of interbeing, that actually you cannot have the giver, the gift, and the receiver without each other. The giver needs the receiver and the gift. And I had to practice this a lot when I was sick, to receive so much more support and like care physically, and like
ask for help,
brothers washing my clothes and bringing me food and driving me places, giving me some massages and so on, and
showering you.
I didn't need help with that, actually. I could do that all the way through, but and so is that of okay, I can also receive. I think that is some of us that want to help and we want to be engaged like this, are we also able to let others be in charge and help us, support us. I think that has been a learning for me. And
I think when I was living here as a hermit for the first couple of years when I first moved here, and then I remember thinking, I have to be ready first before I can start giving. You know, I have to be like enlightened or whatever we may call it.
Are you?
No, I'm not. No, great.
I'm just checking.
But I think then at the point I realized that no, I think that's a wrong misconception because I think it's so important that we can always give from wherever we are in a way. And sometimes giving is to share your pain or to share your where you are in life. I mean, it's all about honesty in a way. Yeah. But actually, that was a relief to actually see that I want to create something positive. Yeah. And I can use in my world, I can use the challenging with my brother who got murdered earlier on in my life. I can use that as something to kind of step from, to kind of like, I want to create something from this that is positive.
Yeah, it gives a very strong message. How it's like, oh wow, you know.
Yeah, I can relate when you say that.
Taking that early on, then you know, as a brother in the same age, it's like, oh, what do I want to spend my life with? And when I still have it, I can understand that become very prominent. And like you're saying, it's not either or. No. It's not either or. So I'm learning when I'm serving, I'm helping, I'm offering things, even leading a retreat. It's like it's a retreat for me. Because I feel like when I lead a meditation, I also go deep into meditation. And when I share the Dharma, I get nourished by the Dharma. And so it's also already a gift for me. And I learn, I understood also something I've shared in the past that have caused some difficulty for someone. And I thought, so I can learn how to be more skillful. That's part of the learning. I don't want to wait, or I don't think it's possible to wait until you're ready and then everything will be flawless. It doesn't, I don't see life working like that. I'm learning as I go along. But then you have to have the capacity to look back and see like, am I just coming from wanting to save the world, but actually there's a crying baby in me not having been taken care of, then we're like out of balance. But you know, you can come back, heal, embrace, go out, offer, contribute, and then
2 steps forward, 1 step backward, 2 steps forward, 1 step. Always checking where you are.
We're whole, you know. That's one reason why our teacher wants us to live in community, and I think that's a challenge we'll see how I'll deal with in the future. You know, if you're a teacher, you want to contribute, you want to help people, and then how do you live your life? You know, we say I met many people that are able to teach so beautifully and charismatically, but you live with them for a couple of weeks, or you hear stories of people living with them or situation in their life, it doesn't match. You know, so for me, I see Tai as an example of a master, meaning like his teaching and his life example, they're like, there's no division, they go together. And so his life is his message. So that is what inspiring me too. So I see like, I'm living with my mother right now. And partly because I see, okay, my dad passed away suddenly, so it's great to be with my mom when she's still well, and we can have fun together, go for walks and cook food for each other and so on. Because we've been so far apart for many years. But also then sometimes I get triggered. Oh, okay, I'm not free yet. I can be freer. So that is also like a path of transformation, of like recognizing that as well. Because I want
also to admit it, to dare to address it. That I mean, it is challenges.
So like that, our actions and our speech and what we contribute and our lived example is like coming closer and closer. At least, you know, I feel like that's what I have to, you know, get help also from people around me that I don't have my brothers and sisters in the same way to do that. And so I'm developing new relationships to help me in that process.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about this story about Gandhi. How someone comes to Gandhi and said, can you help me how to stop eating sweets? And he says, come back in 2 weeks time, I will help you. And then she comes back and then he says, don't eat sweets. And why did I have to wait 2 weeks? Because I had to stop eating sweets myself. I love that kind of like, you have to live what you actually teach. Otherwise it's just, anyone can say stop eating sweets.
So just behind the scenes, if you want to learn how to not eat sweets anymore, come to Peter. He's been off sweets for this year, so you have a lot to share. It's
actually
been a wonderful time being here in Mundekulla this time.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful to have you
even
here.
if we didn't have all the retreatants here as we envisioned. But
looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to when we can start having groups again.
Yeah.
And that's actually that's something nice, because over the years, running this place for 22 years, I've always liked having groups here, but sometimes I've been so much involved and it's been also taking a lot of energy. But it's actually after this Corona I can really look forward to. Wow, wonderful if we would have this retreat that we had the other day now.
Yeah.
For people being here, so there's something good that will come. We have about another 5 minutes. I'm thinking if there's something we should relate to. We talked about the theme of transforming sickness, death, and fear. Also talk about healing, community, in the sense of that you talked about community with monks and nuns. But what could the community look like now? And also for us people who's never had lived the monk life. And then of course love.
There's many people that are hungry for community, and so it's and there's a certain hurdles that even committed and long-term practitioners in our community that want to find others to live with and so on.
Afterwards.
No. We have thousands of lay practitioners, and
come, but not
just
monks
in
and nuns,
North America we have 50 lay Dharma teachers, like me in this situation.
The teachers don't live as a monk and nun. They live a normal life,
exactly.
Married and relationship. Yeah.
And sometimes they want to live with others in the community and so on. And some people try here and there, and sometimes young people. We have a community we call Wake Up, that is young adults from 18 to 35, and sometimes they open a house where they can live together. So they have a shared spiritual direction. And they can practice together, but at least they live with other people, they share their direction. So this sense of community can take many different expressions, but also it can be difficult to how do you practically, when it comes to money and your personal comforts, that is sometimes what make it difficult to live together. But community can also be a group of friends that support each other and see each other often and have a shared direction. And so just seeing, I think that's also what this time is offering us, to look into our relationships. How do we develop our relationships? Because the relationships I have now, they have been cultivated for a long time, right? And so I know friendships takes time and energy. To build trust between two people, you need many beautiful acts and shared moments that build the bond together. So like, how do we do that in our lives? That's like a first step, friendship, and then extending ourselves from beyond the partner relationships or a nuclear family or our own, relatives and the friends around, like extending, so we have more roots in a way. We can see our friends and community as roots to nourish ourselves with, to feel stable and grounded. And it can take many different shapes. I also know that in Sweden there's many different places people try to live together and try to find a way of sustainable life and a different worldview than about what makes us happy. How can we live on this planet in a way that we're children of the earth, as grateful and connected to the earth, and not feeling like we need to separate ourselves to feel safe, and then we kind of see ourselves as like in charge, and we cause a lot of suffering for other species and each other. So I see it's a part of a collective awakening of then seeking community and seeking friendship and seeking alternative ways to live our lives. That is an important part of the way out of suffering.
I think actually more and more people are questioning, as I said, more and more young people are questioning our ways of living today. Also, I think many people more so want to work something that actually contributes to others good, and not build career and money as in the first room. So I think that young people can actually the change will come with the young in a way, very much.
I think also it takes for people of all ages to look back at ourselves and see like what has been bringing me well-being in my life, what is worth investing myself in. So when we're on our deathbed for our own sake, and also what do we leave behind? So what are the actions? Do I feel like I have enough conditions to be happy? I do my own thing. I don't think much about others. It's like when it comes down to it, that is kind of a limited happiness and well-being. So like actually doing beautiful things to support the younger generation, for example. I taught at a middle school just a couple of weeks ago about daring to be different, make choices from who you are. And we spoke about having been a monastic monk and so on, and it was lovely to meet them. So also like actually bringing our experience, whatever our experience and maturity in life is important. So we've also been separating out different generations. Okay, you have young people here, you have old people there, and then, you know. But how can we come together also as that? Because we have things to offer each other, things we can learn from each other, things that we can nourish each other with from different ages. And so for people that are older now to tell young people stories about, wow, what enormous like shifts has happened in their lives. And so we kind of like, because time has been speeding up in a way, and we think that progress is the next thing, the better thing, and it's all going so quick, so it's like difficult to ground ourselves and to see the bigger picture when we're like the trajectory is so far. If our views and current insights or wrong views is our ignorance is taking us very quickly in a certain direction, and if that is not a helpful direction, you know, I think it's helping each other.
I think that's very true, to actually see that we young elder people,
we're young, yes,
we're young, but also we who have some elders are turning into elders now, but because we in Mundekulla also intending to work more with young people.
Wonderful.
Also due to this corona, we try to find new ways to kind of continue. So I have a feeling that we will create different projects, and I also think that we can kind of help them direct the way. We can offer a platform where they can kind of like, because I think being young, you need to see role models, you need to see examples of what can be done. Anyway, I'd like to thank you very much for being part of this interview.
Yes, thank you, Peter.
And it was a bit longer than usual, but that's fine. It was important. And this Mundekulla Live came to be in March of 2019 when Corona started, as a way to reach out for Mundekulla, but also to support Mundekulla. So if you want to support, contribute, there's some information in the text below here. But apart from that, I'd just like to thank you very much for being part of this discussion with Jerker. Phap Ho, Jerker Fredriksson. That was your monastic name, Phap Ho.
Yeah.
Thank you.